be getting the vaccine. So.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm so glad you've joined us today. We have Catherine, and she did the COVID vaccine trial, and I'm super excited to get all of our questions answered. We had tons come in, so we're going to just jump right into it. Catherine has a degree in biochemistry and is now pursuing nursing. Yay, yay, yay. She chose to participate in the COVID vaccine trials to help protect her family members with chronic health issues. So thank you on multiple levels, Catherine, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me a platform to talk about it because I haven't really been able to for many months.
Well, I know that when we first conversed about it, you were kind of, appreciative that it was being seen in a positive light here. And so we're really thankful that you've joined us so that we can get some of our questions answered. So many people are actually participating in the vaccine itself now. So I am super excited that we get to hash out any other questions that people come up with and go through the ones people already submitted. So I did a real brief introduction. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
So not a whole lot. You hit the main points. I mean, I am wanting to get into nursing because I want to be able to apply that science that I love to helping people. And that's what it's been. My dad is a doctor. My mom is a nurse. So it's really in my blood to have that desire to help people. So I guess that was another reason I kind of throw in as far as why I chose to do the vaccine.
Awesome. So we'll just jump right into the first section of questions, which pretty much all revolve around your decision to participate. So which trial did you take part in?
So I had the choice of being part of either the AstraZeneca or Novavax trials. I knew who AstraZeneca was. I'd never heard of Novavax. So I initially went and read as much as I could find. Even it was just over 6 months ago that I was selected for the trial. So really little was known. Anyway, they were still in pretty early stages. But even at that early stage, I knew that I wanted to take part in the Novavax trial because of what I had read. So I'm in the Novavax trial.
Okay, great. So Kelsey asked, what made you decide to participate in the vaccine trial? I think she was more talking about the details of it. And then what was your motivation for participating, which you pretty much already answered in our intro. But what exactly made you say, yes, I'm going to be part of this?
So it was at that point, it was about March time that I had put my name in for an interest in the studies in the area. Okay. Took about 6 weeks from my first phone call with the representative to the time that I started the trial. So it was in that first really increasing wave where people were starting to really shift from, okay, this isn't just another flu or something we can ignore or that's going to go away on its own. This is really serious. It's going to continue to get worse. And, how can I help make it not be as bad as it could be? Mm-hmm. And I still am. I'm working in a pediatric office right now. And we were, seeing fewer and fewer people come in every day because they were just afraid to leave their house because we still don't know so much about it, especially, again, almost a year ago now. And so I really felt that I was in a place where, okay, some of the potential side effects, downsides of vaccines are like infertility and things like that. I would be more okay with than my, friend who's 5 years younger. I am relatively healthy. I, don't have a heart condition or lung condition. So there were things like that I knew I was mitigating and lowering my risk for getting vaccines. Working in pediatrics, I'm well-versed on vaccine interactions, both good and bad. So that's my decision as well, to know that the risks we were seeing were pretty consistent with other vaccines that are given every day and not any worse than that, especially with the Novavax numbers we had seen.
Okay. And I apologize. I didn't include our disclaimer, and I'm going to say that now. The views expressed by myself and Catherine are of our own and not of any other institution or facility. So I just want to lay that out there. I apologize. I didn't get that in before we started really chatting. I just got too excited. So a question that I came up with is, if people want to participate in these other vaccines, like the single dose vaccines that other facilities or other companies are putting out, how can we go about looking for those trials and participating ourselves?
So sure. So I actually, the trial found me to find it. So I would say the first thing you could do is Google one of the companies that's doing it. So Advanced Research is one of the companies that is nationwide that is doing that. And they have it going on in several cities. Thank you, Facebook, for stalking me, because I honestly done an ad in Facebook to say, oh, hey, I want to be in this COVID vaccine trial. So I assume it knew that I was close to one.
That's awesome. So Linda asked, were you pressured into doing this, which you pretty much just answered, or were you afraid to lose your job if you're working in healthcare while in school? That was about her question. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, I'm working in healthcare while in school. I have any reactions. I'm assuming like any adverse reactions to the vaccine there is, I'm assuming, with that question.
Yes. And we'll address that later on in the vaccine section. So sorry, that was my problem. But were you pressured into doing it, which is no, you found it on Facebook. And then were you afraid to lose your job? No, because you found it on Facebook and participated, right?
What was that?
I said, and voluntarily participated.
I did, yes. And honestly, the pressure, I honestly felt pressured not to participate from a lot of friends who were like, what, are you crazy? They don't know anything about this. They haven't been studying these vaccines. It could be, all these crazy side effects they've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Not understanding that the process behind how the vaccine was made, and that, I think, created more fear as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually more pressured not to do it than to do it, I think, by my circle. So
yes. So Linda, that was a great question. And Chelsea asked, what exactly did the trial entail?
Okay, so the first visit was about a 3-hour long health and history physical, and then I did get my first injection at that first visit as well, as long as I passed the health portion of it. And from there, I had a little electronic diary that sent me a reminder every day. Hey, how are you feeling after injection? And that happened every day for 10 days. And it had me track things like my temperature, and they gave me a thermometer and everything. They had me track my temperature, how I felt, if I had site tenderness, if I had muscle pains, if my joints ached. There were about 20 questions to go through to say yes or no, I haven't experienced any of these symptoms. And then if you answered yes to any of those, that would trigger a secondary quiz of, okay, let's get more specific about that. So like, yes, I experienced a fever. Okay, what was your temperature? How often, how long has it been that high? Things like that. And then after that point, we would after the second one, I should say, the second one, same process. I went in for 3 hours, got the second injection. They did monitor me for half an hour after the injection before I could leave. And then same thing of the same diary of, did I feel symptoms? And then 2 weeks after that, I had a 1-hour visit with them just to talk about what I had seen both times. It felt different first shot to second shot. And with the Novavax one, everybody got at least one placebo. And then everybody got the second shot was either a second or the real thing. So that they could test reaction versus also looking at, if you got it, would you get antibodies?
Okay.
Right, I think I'm getting way into other questions here too.
That's okay.
And then so we'd have that visit. And then at the last visit that was an hour long, they set you up with these kits so that every 28 to 14 days, and it would be randomized based on the number of COVID cases they're seeing out in the community, that kind of thing. You would do 2 days of doing the fun nose swabs and then submitting those so that they could track to see, even if you weren't feeling symptoms or if you were feeling symptoms, were you getting sick?
Okay.
So
well, that's great. So since you're already talking about the extensiveness of the trial, I know someone asked further down, but we're just going to ask it now.
yeah.
What kind of follow-up are they going to continue doing in terms of like long-term effects? And how long are they going to follow you?
Yeah, so they want to follow you as long as you will participate, of course, but that can you lose track of people, that kind of thing. Their plan is to try to follow up with as many people as they can with a phone call or an in-person visit for 1 year after I'd gotten the initial injection. So a visit probably every couple of months. Just go in, they'll draw blood. How are you feeling? All that. I think about after 6 months is when we stopped doing the nasal swabs on that basis. And then they would like us to follow up for a minimum of 3 years. So let them know the phone number changes, that kind of thing. But, after that point, if people start dropping out, they're not surprised by that.
Mm-hmm.
But they have asked that we be followed for 3 years.
That's quite a commitment.
It is.
I mean, I don't know that I love that you participated and I love that you dedicated your time to that, but 3 years is quite a commitment. So thank you for putting yourself out there. That's impressive.
Well, after that first year, it's just at that point they want to do an annual visit where they can draw blood really to see where your antibody levels are at. They want to know, is this something that's going to keep that antibody level stable, or is it going to drop down over time?
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's amazing. So let's see. Shannon said, how did you deal with the anxiety of the what ifs and all the possible scenarios?
So I thought about this actually a lot. I'm a worrier for sure.
Okay.
I'm that media person that thinks they left the garage door open or the coffee pot on. So I thought a lot about that, and I kind of went to, okay, what if it was something else? What is the that a big name study is going to really there? Okay, could I be tracked? Could they be, making it so I can't have any more children, all of these different things. And then I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario, what is the likelihood of that actually happening? Again, knowing it's from a company that has lots of research behind them, I'm a phase 3 participant, so they've already given this to lots and lots of other people, and they've had, in Novavax's case, they've had 0 serious adverse reactions happen. It was really just breaking down and looking at, okay, what is it, those feelings versus what do I know based on scientific fact? And for me, that was, knowing that the study materials have come from multiple trustable sources where they have nothing to gain from skewing data results, and they've been able to be reproduced by different groups of people. Mm-hmm. So that data is pretty dependable, and looking at that and going, okay, is it that I'm scared and I'm looking for a reason out, or am I going to look at the science that I have a lot of trust in? Mm-hmm. And I went that route. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't want trust in the science, and you just got to look at, okay, how many people have been able to reproduce this? Because the group A and group B, if they're lying, they're going to get different results, or even on to group C, and those skewed data points become of minimal risk. Now, there are some studies that release that do have very limited data. You just have to look at, what it is that's behind that and make that good decision based on that research. Because as healthcare workers, especially, we have to trust that our counterparts in the labs that are testing these samples, that are coming up with all these things, are doing their jobs too, because they got into this to help people as well, and there's checks and balances in place. So sorry, I got a little soapboxy there.
No, that was great. I think you hit on some things that most people have gone through, that thought process in their mind. Am I going to participate in getting a vaccine? Not even a trial, just getting the vaccine that has already been studied and trialed on many other people. Am I going to participate? And I think that you covered a lot of what a lot of people are going through. So Linda asked, did they give you time to think about it? And were you given information about the vaccine beforehand? So I want to actually piggyback on Linda's question, in that I'm kind of surprised that they vaccinated you on that initial visit. How well informed or how much information did you have before you went into that initial visit?
So before I went into that initial visit, they were originally planning to do a visit and then have me come back a week later and then do the initial injection.
Okay.
But because of that, there was really a big push that same to get vaccine out as quickly as possible. And Novavax was the last company to get their funding from I think it's called Operation Lightspeed, that gave a bunch of money to companies to try and get this vaccine out faster. So because Novavax was kind of behind the companies, they condensed that into one appointment for a lot of people.
Okay.
A few of us, myself included, did not know before we walked into that appointment whether or not that day we were going to get the vaccine. Or not. I did end up getting it. They gave me a whole stack of paperwork and basically gave me as much time as I needed to read through it. And if I had any question, they would put off the shot till the next week. And if I was good to go, they would like to do it today. So we were still kind of given that out, but we were provided as much information and, time to go over that as we needed to. So that wasn't initially the plan, but I think they were trying to speed things up as much as they could to make sure that they weren't, a year behind the first vaccine release.
Okay.
But before even that visit, they gave us a couple of articles with like a lot of it was the most recent study results, and decide at already seen whether or not you wanted to participate.
Okay. Josie asked, do you have any underlying conditions? And do you know of anybody in the study that had underlying conditions?
So at that point, nothing that I had did they consider an underlying condition. There were a couple of things that the doctor came in. That was actually part of the doctor's visit, was deciding if something that I had would be considered an underlying condition or not, because they were tracked differently.
Okay.
And so I had in January of last year, so just a few months before the study, had a gastric sleeve done. And so they wanted to decide if, because of that abdominal surgery and rearranging some organs, if they wanted to put me in that separate group to watch differently. They decided not to, and I didn't have any other conditions that would put me in a separate category. So I think that they decided that that was not enough of a thing to separate me out. But some of the underlying conditions that they had talked about that they really grilled if I had or not were things like high blood pressure and sleep apnea, which before my sleeve and before losing some weight, I did have. So that was, again, another kind of thing they had to talk about. But because those had resolved, they decided to put me with just the regular old people, no underlying conditions.
Okay. So now we're moving into the questions about the vaccine specifically. And as you had mentioned before, you've covered some of these questions. So we'll just kind of mull through them and you can add anything that you might have to add. Yeah. Tracy asked, do you know if you had the vaccine or the placebo? The first shot you said it was either or, and then the second shot you all got the vaccine. Is that correct? Right. Do you know that first vaccine?
I think it was just that at least one of the shots was a placebo for everybody, and the second shot of that too. They could have done it in either order.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. So essentially, are they testing to see if one vaccine is enough?
So they already knew. So Novavax knew that from their earlier groups, that one dose was enough to give you sufficient antibodies to prevent illness. So they already knew that from their previous trial that they had done, their phase 2 trials. So it was looking at, are you going to have a different reaction just from a placebo? So showing the actual vaccine reaction itself. And then looking at, with doing one dose, can they get enough antibodies at a lower dose? And so in the previous trials, on the very lowest dose, they had still gotten significant enough antibodies after one dose that they could prevent illness. So thus doing it this way. And so to answer a few more questions.
Yeah, that's great. I really hope that we can get a single dose, a single effective dose rolled out, because I think that will, no, I don't think, I know that will increase compliance so much more if this is a yearly vaccine.
Right.
I can't imagine everybody getting their 2 doses as they're supposed to, you know.
Right. Well, and then that was another reason that I agreed to participate in the long term, is that you got to know, you know, if Novavax is the last one out of the gate, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the worst. What if they're the only one that shows antibodies after 1 dose? But even if their numbers do drop after a year, you'd make it an annual shot like the flu shot. I still see way more compliance with that than what if the other companies have the same problem. Okay, maybe theirs last 2 years, but then you have to get another 2-dose series.
Right.
You're still statistically going to get a better compliance if it's just a 1 dose a year, you know, annual thing like the flu shot.
Agreed. So Shelby asked, will you be unblinded and get the test group status in the event that you wanted to receive the vaccine? So this doesn't really apply to you because you did get the vaccine.
I know. Yeah, I know. Well, they haven't officially told me that I got the vaccine, because I could still be in that one double placebo dose group, one group that did have that. So, but I had different reactions to each injection.
Okay.
And I'm in pediatrics and I'm hyper aware, because we do a lot of vaccinations in childhood, what to see, like what to watch for right after vaccine. So, and I'm pretty sure I got it a 2nd dose. The 1st dose, it really, like, I didn't notice anything other than like the spot where she gave me the injection was sore if I really pushed on it, and you could see the, you know, the irritation where I got the injection. The 2nd time, it was more like under where my hand could cover was tender. It was warmer to the touch, and I got a really low grade fever. I'm talking like 99.8 was as high as I got. So just barely, not even a fever.
Okay.
So, but that was enough of a different reaction that I mean, I'm pretty sure that was my body saying, oh, we have cells to go make.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, in some cases, maybe in those double blind cases where they were both placebo, will those participants be able to get their results? I know in the group, during this discussion about the vaccine trials, another group member said, oh, I'm also in a vaccine trial. I don't recall which one he was a part of, and he really wanted to get the vaccine. And so he contacted his vaccine trial, I don't know, contact.
You have a point of contact.
Yeah, he contacted his contact and asked about it, and they actually revealed his results to him so that he could go ahead and get vaccinated if he was in that placebo group, which is yay for them, right? Because the vaccine's already done. They did allow him to continue on in the study, didn't have to drop out or anything for that information. So I was really thankful for him.
Yeah, and we're told we have the option of knowing as soon as we're through that first like 6 months phase where they have us doing the collections. They just don't want that data. Once they have enough of that data, then they'll tell us whether or not we actually got it. So because there's also some very small pieces of information out there, since it's still so new, but cross vaccinating. So say, oh, I'm going to get double protected and then get the Novavax vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine. Don't do that. No. There can be really bad adverse reactions with that. We've seen in very small numbers of people doing that, big numbers of bad things happening. I mean, high fevers, ending up back in the hospital as if they did really get COVID. So,
yeah, good plug on there. That's no. So Fawn asked, how did the first dose compare to the second? And you've already covered that. Kelsey asked, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about receiving the vaccine now that it's being distributed and administered on a large scale? I'd like your perspective, having been in the trials versus the rest of us who've been vaccinated through work.
Right. So first of all, I'd find out, does your work offer more than one company's vaccine? If it's something where they're really pushing you that, I don't honestly know how far they can push that, if they can fire you if you don't get it. Whatever it is in your area that they're saying that they can do if you don't get vaccinated. So you have to do it now. Okay, well, look at what options do you have? And then I'd say go read what you can find on what options you have. If you don't have an option, I would still go read up on the option that you do have. And if there's something in there that you're really unwilling to take that risk, I would then say talk to your supervisor. Because if you are feeling bad about getting it, you are not be a good advocate for others, and that is a question you should have as much peace as you can about it, because you're not doing anything for your health and immunity by being stressed about it, especially when you're going to get this vaccine. If you can you know choose between two companies, I think that's great. I think that would be the best option, because then at least you can look at you're making the best choice of the options that you have. The other part of that, look at reasons why you would want to have it. Things like protecting those that can't get it. My son and my husband both have a congenital heart condition, and so they're in a much higher risk group if they get this vaccine at this point. That was my biggest motivator, and knowing that, okay, even if I have to make a sacrifice, I'm making that sacrifice for the people that I love the most. And that was worth the risk to me. And that, honestly, I know that can't be everybody's reason, but that is honestly what really pushed me over, knowing that I was going to be more capable than they were to handle it right now. I think that when we have, the healthy, no underlying conditions, people vaccinated, and we know some data on that it's more safe, then I think, we can vaccinate those that it might be a little bit more dangerous for, as long as that risk has been shown to be low enough. But really, yeah, you got to think about those people that not just you, but, I couldn't stand the knowledge that if there was something to stop me from bringing it home to others who couldn't withstand it as much as I could, that I felt really called to do that, to make that sacrifice. So sorry, I got a little emotional there for a second, but
no, that's good. It's good. It's good for us to process all of those things, whatever that is for you as the individual. There was, the vaccine itself is a really heated topic. And in the group, I feel like everyone's doing a really good job when questions arise, giving information and education as best we can, because there's not a ton out there, right? So knowing where you can find the education and resources, and reading as much as you can, and bringing questions that you have to the group in regards, very specifically in regards to the research that you've done, is really helpful. Because when you just say, hey, I'm not sure if I should get the vaccine, well, you need to do your research and figure out what's best for you. And like Catherine said, weighing those pros and those cons. How about you just tell us a little bit about how maybe you explain to families in your practice how vaccines actually work, so that anybody who's watching that doesn't maybe understand the process of creating the vaccine and what it's doing in your body to create that immunity.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a lot of times I'll send people home with a YouTube link, just because it's fun to watch with your family. There's a guy that does A&P videos, and he does, and it's a 9-minute video, although he makes it so interesting, and there's cartoons like to show everything that's happening. He makes it really fun. But in essence, you are injected with a mixture of completely inactivated virus, sometimes parts of a virus put into something else, like the COVID vaccine it's not, none of the versions out there are, this whole virus put in and just deactivated. The vaccines that you see that are the deactivated kind, that have the whole virus in there, things like MMR and varicella. And that's why they have to be kept usually at about negative 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, because we want to keep them in that completely suspended animation state until we're ready to inject them. than the vaccines that you see that are just a piece of something else put into something that's inactivated. So a piece of polio put into something that's inactivated that will give you just enough of that code to write for T cells, our immune cells. So those vaccines are the ones that you see kept in the refrigerator. So when you get the injection, your body recognizes that as foreign, obviously, and then it sees that it's an infectious agent. And when it reads the DNA and RNA on that, it then can create a T cell specific to that. Well, even though we might have injected something that isn't totally polio, have enough of the information there that the T cell created would recognize polio in the same way and just destroy it as a foreign cell. So that's a very simplified version, and I can give you the link for the YouTube video where he goes into a lot more detail, but that's the very, very simplified version of it.
Yeah, you should. Please do. And, you know, people were talking about, oh my gosh, these reactions, these symptoms, etc. The first vaccine versus the second. And you have to think, the first vaccine, your body's never seen this before, right? And then the second one, it's had a little taste of what it's supposed to do now that it's built up some immunity to it. And that second vaccine, your immune system's like, I'm ready, bring it, let's go. Right. And so that heightened immune response is A, expected, and B, what you want. You want your body to be ready to attack COVID. And so a lot of people, they're, oh my gosh, I've gotten so sick. Not to say that, you know, these people didn't get sick with the second dose. They did, but that's their immune response doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, my family watched me go through the second phase, and so they're not going to get it. And just anybody that's watching and feeling that way, I hope that you will be able to encourage your family members that indeed that's exactly what your body is supposed to be doing in creating that heightened immune response.
And Chelsea, I just, since I'm working on my phone when I thought I was going to be on my computer, I just sent you that link to that YouTube video.
Awesome. Thank you. That's perfect.
He's great. Sometimes if you're just, you know, I don't know if you're bored and want an A&P refresher, he is a really fun way to get it. I've really actually used him a lot for while I've been in A&P, so. That's
great. That's an awesome resource. I love to have links and things. I save them in my notes so that I can share them again when people in the group ask questions, and I can reference back to them. So thanks. That's perfect. I'll put them in the show notes as well. The link.
Yeah, and he has a whole series. So this is just one of his. I think he has over 100 anatomy and physiology videos. So.
That's great. So now we're moving into the questions that revolved around post-vaccine, and you've actually answered a lot of these already. So several people asked, did you have to keep a diary of any symptoms, which you did. It was a 10-day questionnaire.
Yep.
And
if we did experience symptoms, they had a form for us to fill out so that we could send in those nose tests if we did ever get sick, which I've been very lucky this year. I've not even gotten a cold or anything, so I haven't had to do that.
Yeah, my kids have been so healthy this winter. Right. I am so thankful. And maybe we'll just do winter masks. I'm okay with that.
Right.
No, they need to have some immune response. It's okay. But anyway, Chelsea asked, what happens if you were to have a serious reaction or die from the vaccine? Right. What did they discuss with you prior?
Yeah, so if we had gotten a big reaction, they wanted us to contact them, obviously, as soon as we were sick, not just do the nose swabs, but right after the vaccine, because we were doing those nose swabs right after the vaccine if we started to get symptoms as well. Mm-hmm. But if we got symptoms, they wanted us to immediately contact them, and they would cover any medical bills if we had some serious reaction. Okay. I think that they were pretty, I don't know that I would have told that up front, because I think you might get some people who like, oh, I'm having a bad reaction, so I need, some other thing done that wasn't from that.
Okay.
But they wanted us to be really upfront and honest about everything going on, like any reactions we had, I think that they were willing to cover that. So any medical bills that needed to happen to get us back to, pre-study health if possible, they would cover all those medical bills. In the event of death, they had some sort of a fund. It didn't talk about specific numbers, but they had a fund for families of those who, if anybody died in the vaccine trial.
Wow.
So they did talk a little bit about that, but they didn't go into specific numbers of how much they pay them or anything like that. But they had something set up for that.
Okay, that's really interesting. Actually, if I'm honest, I'm very surprised at both of those.
Yeah,
I'm
that
very
may be different for others, but this is Novavax's first major vaccine trial. They've been around for several years, but I think that that really made me have a lot more faith in the company as well, just knowing they're already thinking about, okay, if something goes wrong from our product, we want to make sure people are taken care of. And I've been very impressed with everything that has come out about Novavax and the vaccine they've come up with as well.
Yeah, that's really great. I'm really pleasantly surprised to hear that. So we're actually at the end of our questions here, and I don't see any more additional questions coming in. So in closing, if everyone took one thing, one piece of encouragement, knowledge away today, what would you like it to be?
Oh, I would say consider getting vaccinated if you haven't previously, and do not be afraid to read what's out there, particularly when it comes from like NCBI is a great resource to find that. So be educated on what you're getting, and don't read into the negative hype. Find your own answers for that. I think that it's not as scary as we thought it was going to be, and much less scarier than the prospect of having another year where we have to shut down and we don't have enough nurses and don't have enough beds. So yeah, I think that might have been more than one message, but take hope.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So thank you for joining us today. And those of you that tuned in, thank you so much. Keep empowering each other, learning together, laughing together, and supporting one another. Never stop learning. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.